A car hit me on Christmas Eve, but what actually destroyed my chest was seeing who was sitting in the passenger seat. I didn't hear a horn, I didn't hear brakes, just the roar of an engine coming in way too fast. Then my body went flying backward like the world had decided to rip me out of my own life. Christmas lights blinked up and down the street, a warm glow that clashed with the cold creeping up my legs when I hit the ground. The sweet smell of cinnamon French toast drifted out of nearby houses, creating a cruel contrast with the harsh stink of asphalt where I lay. It's unbelievable how life can collapse in a setting that looks so beautiful. I'd only stepped out to buy sugar, trying to finish the dessert Darius asked for in that tone that always made me shrink inside. "Do it right this time, Maya." That was the last thing he said before storming out to handle something important without even looking at me. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, completed the scene minutes later, her voice always loaded with judgment. "You should put more effort in, Maya. Marcus likes things done properly." That sentence was still echoing in me when I crossed the street, distracted, drained, exhausted from carrying an entire marriage by myself. And then the impact happened. Hard, fast, cruel. My body spun through the air while the colorful lights from the houses blurred into something almost too beautiful for the moment. When I hit the ground, I felt the cold first, then the silence of everyone around me holding their breath. But before the pain even arrived, something worse happened. My shaky gaze lifted from the pavement to the car that had stopped. The driver jumped out in a panic, repeating that he didn't see me. None of it mattered the second I turned my head toward the passenger seat. And there she was, Tanisha Walker, the woman who almost destroyed my marriage years ago, the woman Darius swore he'd never see again, the woman holding in her lap the same red scarf that disappeared from my house, the one I knitted myself. My heart went ice cold. My whole body went ice cold. And right there, still lying on the asphalt, I felt something inside me wake up. A silent question, almost a scream. How could he? And as I swallowed the shock, something happened inside me, sudden, intimate, painful. Have other women been through this too? Has anyone listening to me right now felt the same kind of loneliness disguised as routine? And then, instinctively, inside my own memory and pain, I felt the urge to reach for the women who follow me, like I needed hands to hold me up so I wouldn't shatter. If you're listening right now, please like this video, subscribe, and share it. Your presence here gives me the strength to keep telling you what happened. And tell me, have you ever had your heart run over by someone who swore they loved you? That question echoed in me like I was talking to a friend who would finally understand. I took a deep breath, or tried to. The air wouldn't go in right, and I snapped back to the scene of the accident. Tanisha didn't get out of the car. She didn't call my name. She didn't ask if I was alive. She just gripped the scarf tighter, like she was afraid I'd see it, when the truth is, just seeing her there was already the biggest revelation possible. The driver kept yelling for help, but my eyes wouldn't leave her. Her face, her silence, her symbolism. Because sometimes it isn't the hit that destroys a woman, it's the confirmation she never wanted to face. Sirens began to wail in the distance, slicing through the festive night. Red lights reflected off the Christmas decorations like they were announcing a truth no one could erase. They put me on a stretcher, but even then, even as they lifted me, even while my body screamed, I kept my eyes locked on the passenger seat. I knew that hit-and-run moment wasn't just an accident. It was the beginning of a truth I wouldn't be able to ignore anymore. And worse than that, I knew it wouldn't be the only pain I'd feel that night. When I came to in the ambulance, the sirens sliced through the night like a blade. But strangely, my body wasn't panicking. There was a quiet, unnatural calm in me, the same calm that shows up right before the truth finally decides to reveal itself. Jamal kept talking to me, trying to keep my eyes open, but my mind was somewhere else, still on the street, still staring at the passenger seat, still trying to understand how a life can change in a single blink of Christmas lights. The physical pain was still small, just a warning of what was coming, but the emotional pain was already rising, like water creeping up in a dark room, silent and unstoppable. And the farther the ambulance pulled away from the crash, the more my mind dragged up recent memories, micro-injustices, patterns, signs I ignored, now pounding like hammers against my awareness. That Christmas Eve had started going wrong long before the impact. I woke up early to get everything ready, table, food, decorations, but the house was heavy with tension, the kind that never says its name. Darius didn't help with a single thing, like always. He spent the morning on his phone, turning the screen away every time I walked past. When I asked if he was going to the market with me, he answered flatly, "Maya, you can do that on your own. Please don't make this complicated." It was always like that. Always don't make it complicated. Always you can handle it. Always like I was a burden in his life, not the partner who had carried years of emotional labor without a break. When I got back from the market, Evelyn was in the kitchen, like she always was, showing up without warning and, like she always was, finding something to criticize. "You picked these vegetables? They look a little old. That dessert again? You didn't even try to improve it? Your dress? So plain, Maya. Marcus likes something more elegant." I took it all in silence, not because I agreed, but because if I pushed back, Darius would get irritated, and I was exhausted from the invisible war between mother-in-law and daughter-in-law that only I seemed to be fighting. He came downstairs later wearing a shirt I'd never seen before. When he saw me getting dinner ready, he tossed out a comment that lodged itself in my soul. "Try not to mess up the seasoning this year, okay? My mom mentioned it last time." Those little stabs are the ones that hurt the most, the ones that don't bleed but bruise you from the inside. I kept stirring the pot, trying not to let my hands shake. Darius didn't notice, or he didn't want to. He cared more about his reflection than the emotional state of the woman sharing a home with him. Then, close to 6, he said he needed to handle something real quick. No explanation, no details, no "do you need help?" He just adjusted his collar and walked out the front door. Evelyn looked at me with a half smile and said, "Busy men always have priorities. You need to understand your place." That sentence burned, and now it made way too much sense. All day long, something in the air felt off. An itch, a pressure, that sense that something wasn't right. But like I always did, I swallowed it and kept going. I kept cooking, setting, organizing, trying to hold a family together, trying to hold up a house I already knew wasn't holding me back. When I realized we were out of sugar, I decided to run out. And it was on that run, that ordinary crossing, that everything came down. The impact, the fall, the cold, the yelling, everything was violent. But nothing was as violent as seeing Tanisha holding my old red scarf, the one that marked the period of my life when I almost lost Darius before. And suddenly, I understood. I never truly got him back. Inside the ambulance, Jamal asked me, "Maya, do you remember what happened?" I could have said no. I could have said I was confused. I could have protected my heart for a few more minutes. But the truth was already too alive inside me. I remembered. I remembered everything. I remembered the last few weeks, the harsh comments, icy silences, the strange perfume on his shirts, the deleted messages, the fake smile when I asked if everything was okay. The accident didn't start on the street. It started inside my house. And as the ambulance turned the corner and I watched the crash site disappear through the window, something cut through me with brutal clarity. It wasn't the hit that destroyed me. It was realizing I'd been alone long before it happened. Inside the ambulance, I tried to keep my eyes open while Jamal checked my vitals, but my mind was moving on its own, pulling up memories I had never wanted to revisit. It was as if my body was injured, but my soul had finally woken up. Every detail from the past few weeks surfaced with brutal clarity, like the accident had torn away a veil I'd put over my own eyes just to survive my marriage. I fixed my gaze on the side window, trying to catch a glimpse of the sky. But the image that haunted me was something else entirely. The red scarf in Tanisha's hands. That object had returned without mercy. And it wasn't just any symbol. It was the warning I had ignored ever since the day it mysteriously vanished from my house years earlier. I remember exactly when I noticed it was gone. I asked Darius about it, and he snapped back, irritated. "Maya, it's just a scarf. I probably donated it by accident. You hold on to too much stuff." But now, I had seen it. I had proof. The scarf was never donated. It was given to her. That realization pierced my chest as I lay there on the stretcher. It felt symbolic in the cruelest way. While I was being carried, broken, vulnerable, she was holding something I had made with my own hands, with love, during a time when I still believed my marriage had a future. Jamal noticed my distant stare. "Maya, do you remember what happened before the car hit you?" I swallowed hard. I did, and I also remembered what came long before the accident. Small signs, tiny cracks, quiet silences that scream once you learn how to listen. His coldness in recent weeks, the emotional distance, the sudden outings, excuses that made less and less sense, the perfume that wasn't mine, Evelyn constantly defending him like she knew something I didn't. And there was more, details that now flashed in my memory like blades. 3 weeks earlier, I'd found gift wrap in his car, but no gift. When I asked what it was, Darius said, "Work stuff." I threw it away. But the wrapping paper had red glitter, the same red glitter I saw that night, clinging to the scarf. Fate can be painfully poetic when it decides to wake up a woman who's been tired for too long. And that wasn't all. A deleted message, a call declined too quickly, a strange smile when I asked who he was going to take care of that Christmas afternoon. I already knew something was wrong. I just didn't trust my intuition until I saw Tanisha in that seat, gripping my scarf from years ago like she was holding my heart. The ambulance took a sharp turn, and for a second, I caught sight of the car behind us, surrounded by police. Tanisha was still inside, head lowered, her hand clenched around the scarf. And I felt something I never expected to feel in a moment like that. Not anger, understanding, the brutal certainty that this wasn't a coincidence. The stories we try to erase always find a way back. The hospital came into view like a white blur of light. As they wheeled me through the corridors, the ceiling lights rushed past overhead, and each one carried a different thought, another piece of the puzzle clicking into place. A nurse asked my name. Another told me to take a deep breath. But none of those questions hurt as much as the one forming inside me. Were they together again? The answer felt obvious, but I needed certainty. I needed clarity before deciding what to do next. When they placed me in the observation room, Jamal stayed by my side for a moment. His expression was human, non-judgmental, unpressured, simply present. "Maya," he said softly, "you know the people who were in that car, don't you?" My chest locked up. I didn't want to answer. But truth, once it matures, finds its own voice. "Yes," I murmured, "I know them." And in that moment, I realized I wasn't just admitting I knew the driver. I was admitting I knew who he was when he thought no one was watching. Jamal nodded. I could tell he understood without needing details. When he left, the door slightly ajar, cool hospital air brushed my face, and for the first time since the accident, an idea began to take shape inside me. Fragile, quiet, but powerful. It was time to stop running from the signs, time to stop ignoring the obvious, time to open my eyes to everything. I was hurt, I was shaken, but I had never been this clear. And clarity is the first step of smart revenge, not the kind that destroys others, but the kind that finally rebuilds yourself. I knew it then. Whatever came after that night would completely change the direction of my life. When Jamal closed the door to the room and I was finally alone, silence settled in like a thick fog. But it wasn't the usual hospital silence. It was a silence that pointed inward, illuminating everything I had spent years forcing into the background. I was injured, immobilized, tangled in wires, but my mind was waking up from an emotional coma I had put myself in just to survive. I barely had time to organize my thoughts when I heard footsteps in the hallway. Fast, familiar, heavy. The kind of steps I had learned over the years to read by the mood that came with them. My heart sped up, not from love, but from anticipation. The door opened slowly. Darius walked in. His face was tight, strained, like someone trying to balance guilt and fear at the same time. He closed the door with careful, almost theatrical precision, as if that alone could erase everything that had happened outside. "Maya," he began, letting out a loaded sigh. "Thank God you're alive. I don't know what I'd do if I'd lost you." I watched him with a distance I had never felt before. He looked smaller, maybe because for the first time, I wasn't looking at him through love, but through clarity. "It was an accident," he rushed on before I could speak. "I got distracted. I was tired. Tired?" My voice came out calm, controlled. "Tired of what, Darius? The life you have with me? Or the company you had in the car?" He froze like he'd been hit again. "Maya, you think you saw things. You were on the ground, scared. You could have been confused." "Confused?" I repeated, my eyes locked on his. "So you're going to look me in the eye right now and tell me Tanisha wasn't sitting next to you?" He opened his mouth, closed it, swallowed hard. A sheen of sweat appeared at his temple, and right there, the twist began. I knew Darius well enough to understand that silence was the most honest confession he was capable of. Finally, he collapsed into the chair beside my bed, covering his face with his hands. "Maya, you weren't supposed to see that." That sentence sliced through my chest because it didn't say, "It didn't happen." It said, "You found out." He took a deep breath, trying to gather excuses floating in the air. She reached out to me, said she was alone, that she needed to talk. I was only taking her home." "On Christmas Eve?" I asked, without raising my voice. "The day you promised to help with dinner? The day you left me alone with your mother criticizing me? You walked out to comfort the woman who almost destroyed our marriage." He clutched his chest like he was searching for air. "Maya, you need to understand it wasn't like before. I didn't cheat on you, not this time." I laughed, a weak laugh, a sad one, a grown one. "Darius, do you really think you have to touch another woman to betray me?" He blinked, confused. But I kept going. "The betrayal started when you left the house to go to her, when you chose her pain over mine, when you left me alone while you ran back to the past." He reached for my hand. I pulled back, just slightly. "Maya, I love you. I love you. I never stopped loving you." "Love?" I repeated, feeling something new rise in my chest. "You've barely looked at me for months. You turn off your phone when I enter the room. You leave without explaining. You treat me like an obligation. You let your mother tear me down piece by piece. And today," I took a breath, steady. Today, you ran me over twice, with the car and with the truth. Darius started to cry, collapsed in a way I'd never seen before, and far too late. And for the first time, I was emotionally standing while physically broken. "Maya, please," he begged, "don't end us like this. I'll change, I swear. I'll do anything you want." I watched him for a long moment, and then came the second twist, the one I never expected, because what I felt wasn't rage, it was peace. A peace that only comes when the truth finally settles into place. "Darius, I'm not going to scream, I'm not going to make a scene, I'm not going to beg," I said, my voice clean and steady. "But I'm also not going to keep getting run over emotionally." He inhaled sharply, waiting for a promise, but I ended with my freedom. I said quietly, "Today, I realized something. The love I feel for you isn't enough to hold up what you destroyed, and for the first time, I had the courage to admit that." He tried to speak, but I finished. "The accident hurt me on the outside. What you did hurt me on the inside, and that pain, I'm not carrying it anymore." When Darius left the room, after asking for forgiveness without truly understanding what he was asking for, the hospital fell into a silence so deep it felt like someone had muted the world. But it wasn't an empty silence. It was heavy with meaning. Heavy with decisions that hadn't been made yet. Heavy with everything I'd spent years avoiding. I lay there staring at the white ceiling above me, trying to follow the rhythm of my own heart. The irony wasn't lost on me. Only now could I hear my body clearly. For years, I'd ignored every quiet warning it gave me. I ignored the exhaustion, the tightness in my chest, the emotional abandonment inside my marriage, all in the name of keeping a peace that never truly existed. And now, lying in a hospital bed, I finally understood something with terrifying clarity. I never had peace. I only had fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of admitting that I loved more than I was loved. Jamal came back in to check my vitals. His presence was calm, grounding, almost therapeutic. He looked at me with a kindness I wasn't used to receiving in my own home. "Maya, how are you feeling right now?" he asked. I took a deep breath before answering. Like I just woke up from a bad dream, only it turns out that dream was my life. He nodded, like someone who understood without needing me to explain. "It hurts more on the inside, doesn't it?" "Much more," I said. When he left, something opened in my chest. Not sadness, but clarity. For the first time, I could see my story without the filter love puts on to protect us from the truth. I thought about everything I'd accepted in silence. The absences, the criticism, the coldness, the silence in bed. My mother-in-law tearing me down while he stood by saying nothing, like I was an inconvenience to them both. And remembering Tanisha's eyes in that car, her hand gripping the red scarf I'd made myself, something inside me finally broke. But it was a good kind of breaking, the kind that frees instead of wounds. I didn't want destructive revenge. I wanted emotional justice. I wanted to see myself. I wanted to choose myself. And right there, right in that moment, the internal plan began to take shape. Not a plan to humiliate Darius, not a plan to hurt Tanisha, a plan to rebuild me. If he came home after that accident, he would find a different woman. Not the one he'd emotionally run over for years, not the one he devalued, not the one he always placed last. Evelyn, my mother-in-law, appeared at the hospital door just then, worried but already sharpened to strike. She opened her mouth, probably ready with another criticism, but I interrupted her with the calmest, most grounded voice I'd ever felt. "Evelyn, not today." She froze. She had never heard my voice like that before. Today, I just need silence." She took a breath, clearly offended, but she stepped back, and for the first time, I didn't feel guilt. I felt relief. That's when I realized something important. The silence that used to paralyze me was now strengthening me. I closed my eyes and let the night settle over me. My leg throbbed with pain, but my soul felt steady for the first time in a very long while. I knew what would come next. He would come back. He would cry more. He would promise everything. He would try to convince me it wasn't what it looked like. But I was no longer the woman who believed in rehearsed lines. I was the woman who saw the truth with her own eyes. And lying there, surrounded by machines, cold light, and the sharp smell of antiseptic, I made a quiet promise to myself. I will never ignore the woman I am again, and I will never accept a love that makes me smaller. The night moved slowly on, but inside me, something had awakened, and there was no going back. His footsteps came down the hallway again, heavy, dragging, like someone walking toward his own judgment. But something inside me was different now. I wasn't shaking. I wasn't waiting for explanations. I wasn't craving affection or remorse. I just wanted to see the truth in his eyes. The door opened slowly, and Darius stepped in, his face worn down. He looked older, smaller, like guilt had finally found room to surface. But what struck me most was the emptiness in his gaze. The look of someone who realizes he's lost control of his own narrative. "Maya," he started, his voice breaking, "I need to talk to you." I stayed calm, a calm that didn't come from pain, but from clarity. "Then talk," I said, without raising my voice. He took a deep breath, rubbing his face like someone trying to wake up from a nightmare. I talked to Tanisha. I told her to go home. I said she shouldn't have reached out today. I swear I never meant to hurt you." I let out a short laugh. Not mocking, just deeply tired. "Darius, you never meant to hurt me, and yet you did, over and over again." He opened his mouth to respond, but I continued. "This isn't about today. It's about everything that came before it. Every time I tried to tell you I was disappearing inside this marriage, and you pretended not to hear." My words hit him hard enough to make him step back, like he was finally seeing the size of his neglect for the first time. "Maya, I love you," he said desperately. "I'm not with her. I didn't cheat on you. I was trying to help. She's going through a divorce and you decided to be her hero on Christmas Eve?" I asked, my voice steady. "On a day you knew mattered to me." He swallowed hard. "She has no one, Maya." I looked straight into his eyes. "And what about me?" The question landed in the room like a silent thunderclap. Darius froze, breathed, shook, and for the first time in his life, he had no answer. "Who do I have, Darius?" I pressed. "When I cry, you say I'm exaggerating. When I try to talk, you sigh. When I mess up a recipe, you complain to your mother. When I ask for attention, you treat me like an inconvenience. So tell me, who do I have?" He covered his face, crying now, his whole body trembling. "Maya, please, I know I failed, but don't give up on us. I can be better. I can be the man you deserve." "You never wanted to be," I interrupted gently, "and that's enough for me now." He looked like he was about to drop to his knees, but before he could say another word, the door opened slowly. Evelyn walked in. She held her purse tight against her chest like she was bracing herself for what she was about to witness. And then came the double twist. Evelyn looked at her son, then at me, and let out a deep breath. "Darius," she said with a firmness I had never heard before, "stop. You've done enough damage." He turned to her stunned. "Mom, not now." "Now is exactly when. You've treated this woman as disposable for years, and today, on the day she almost died, you hurt her more than any car ever could." Darius went pale. So did I. I never imagined hearing that from the woman who had criticized me the most. Evelyn continued, stepping closer. "Maya, you are a remarkable woman, and I should have defended you, or at the very least, I should have stopped contributing to the pain you lived with in my house." Her words hooked into me, not as pain, but as healing. Darius stood frozen, like the ground had vanished beneath his feet. "Mom, why are you saying this?" "Because it's the truth," she replied. "You never valued the woman you had, and if she decides to leave, you'll have to accept it. You lost that right today." Darius collapsed beside the bed, crying like a lost child. I took a deep breath and said with the gentlest firmness of my life, "Darius, I don't want your ruin. I want my peace. And for the first time, I can feel it existing. Without you." The heart monitor beeped softly, like it agreed. He tried to reach for my hand, but this time I was clear. "Please, don't touch me, not now. Maybe not anymore." The silence that followed didn't hurt. It freed me. I, who had lowered my head so many times to avoid conflict, was now standing in my truth, finally aware of my own worth. It was the end of him, but it was the beginning of me.
When Evelyn finished speaking, the entire hospital room seemed to change temperature. It was as if an old weight, one I'd been carrying for years without even realizing it, finally dropped to the floor. That woman, who had diminished me so many times, who had made me feel small inside my own home, was now defending me with a firmness I never imagined she was capable of. And for the first time, I didn't feel alone. Darius remained kneeling beside the bed, his face buried in his hands, breathing unevenly. But unlike other moments, I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel the urge to comfort him, to wipe his tears, to gather his broken pieces. Because in that moment, I understood something clearly. It is not my responsibility to fix what he broke. "Darius," he murmured without lifting his head, "please, don't do this to us." That word, us, hurt, because I knew there hadn't been an us for a long time. There had been me trying, and him pushing me away. I answered honestly, "Darius, I'm not doing anything to us. You already did. I'm just accepting it." He looked up, desperate, red-eyed, searching for the submissive woman I had been for so many years, the woman who bent herself to avoid conflict, who accepted emotional crumbs like a full meal. She wasn't there anymore. Before he could say anything else, Evelyn placed a firm hand on his arm, finally stepping into the role of a mother, not to protect him, but to face the truth. "Darius, you need to leave. She needs space to breathe." He turned to her, stunned. "Mom, you're taking her side?" "I'm taking the side of the truth," Evelyn replied without hesitation. "And the truth is, you didn't take care of your marriage. You didn't take care of her, and you didn't take care of yourself. It's time to face that." His voice failed him. I added quietly, with the calmest strength I've ever known, "Darius, I'm going to heal. I'm going to walk again. I'm going to go home. But none of it will be the same." "You're leaving me?" he asked, choking. I took a deep breath. "I'm choosing myself." It was the first time I'd ever said those words out loud, and they vibrated inside me like a door finally opening. At that moment, Jamal came in to check my vitals. When he saw the scene, he stayed silent, simply placing a hand on Darius's shoulder and saying gently, "Please, she needs rest." Darius stood up slowly, shattered, walking toward the door like someone who had finally realized he'd lost something precious, not by accident, but by arrogance. When the door closed behind him, Evelyn stayed, hesitant,
human, almost fragile. "Evelyn," she said softly, "I know I wasn't good to you. I know I helped make you feel alone, but you didn't deserve any of this. I'm truly sorry." I breathed in deeply. Hearing that didn't hurt. It healed. "Thank you, Evelyn," I said. "I needed to hear that from someone." She nodded, tears quietly forming, and left the room, closing the door with care. The silence returned, but this time it was different. It wasn't the silence of abandonment. It was the silence of emotional reorganization. I stared at the white ceiling above me, feeling a strange lightness in my chest. Not because everything was solved, but because for the first time, I felt ownership over my own story. I knew the physical recovery would be hard, but the emotional one, that had already begun. And as the heart monitor kept a steady rhythm, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. The peace of not having to beg for love. The peace of no longer accepting crumbs. The peace of a woman who, after being run over by life, finally learned how to stand up for herself. Morning slipped quietly through the hospital window, bringing a soft, hesitant light, as if it were afraid to touch me. I was still in pain, of course, but now that pain carried a different meaning. The physical pain was specific, contained. The emotional pain? That one had finally found a way out. I lay there for a few minutes just watching the ceiling, breathing in the cold air. It wasn't the first Christmas morning I'd ever woken up alone, but it was the first time that solitude didn't feel like punishment. For the first time, it felt like freedom. As I adjusted myself in the bed, I felt an unexpected weight in my chest. A good one. The kind that signals something is being born. And without forcing it, a thought surfaced. How many women wake up like this? How many wake up wounded but finally awake? And in that moment, as naturally as breathing, an impulse rose inside me. Not a technical request, but an emotional one. A hand reaching out to whoever might be listening. If you're hearing me right now, please like this story, subscribe, and share it. Sometimes that's what saves a woman from believing she's alone. And tell me, have you ever had an emotional Christmas like this, where everything collapsed but some part of you finally came back to life? After that thought, I returned to the present, to the quiet room, the pale light, the deeper rhythm of my breath. Jamal came in a little while later, wearing that calm expression that had anchored me since the night before. "Maya, how are you feeling?" he asked. I thought for a moment before answering. Like life scared me and gave me a second chance at the same time. He smiled, nodding like someone who's witnessed many rebirths within hospital walls. When he left, I was alone again. But this time, the solitude wasn't empty. It was mine, my space, my silence, my peace. Something I hadn't felt in a very long time. I replayed the night in my mind. The impact, the pain, Tanisha's eyes, the red scarf, Darius's confession, Evelyn's unexpected defense, and then myself. For the first time, I saw myself from the outside. And for the first time, I liked what I saw. I saw a woman who almost died, but was reborn before ever leaving the hospital. A woman who was betrayed, diminished, disrespected, and who still found herself in the middle of tragedy. I saw a woman who finally understood her worth. Later, a nurse came in with my belongings. My phone was cracked along the edge. Nothing could have been more symbolic. My life, too, had been fractured on the outside, but was finally functioning on the inside. Tucked between my things was a small note. From Evelyn. "Thank you for not giving up on yourself. If you need support, I'm here. Not to judge, but to learn." I closed my eyes as I read it. It was strange how life corrected itself in unexpected places. By late afternoon, I was discharged. The nurse wheeled me toward the exit, and when the automatic doors slid open, cold air brushed my face like an invitation. Snow was falling softly, white, silent, clean, as if the world itself were offering me a fresh beginning. Standing there outside the hospital, one truth became clear. I survived the impact, but more than that, I survived everything that came before it. I touched my own hand, simple, symbolic, and whispered silently, "Thank you for not giving up on me." And maybe that's what you, the woman listening right now, also need to hear. You don't have to wait for an accident to wake up. You don't have to be destroyed to rebuild yourself. You don't have to accept a love that hurts just because you're afraid of being alone. Loneliness hurts at first, but the wrong company destroys you from the inside. And in that moment, while snow melted gently against my skin in the way I'd always wished love would, I understood that Christmas hadn't ended. It had restarted inside me. Before getting into the car that would take me home, I looked up at the sky, let one last snowflake melt in my palm, and thought, the truth didn't run me over. It set me free. And that was the greatest gift I could have received that Christmas.